I always believed my father died a hero in a car crash when I was 7, until last week, when I found a hidden letter from my mother that shattered everything I knew about our family. The dust of memory, the attic smelled of mildew and forgotten things. I stood in the center of the cramped space, surrounded by cardboard boxes sagging under the weight of time, their edges softened by years of neglect. The single bulb overhead flickered, casting jagged shadows across the rafters. My mother's house, now my house I supposed, hadn't been touched in months, not since her funeral. I'd put off this task for as long as I could, but the realtor had been clear out the clutter or the place wouldn't sell. I was 34 and the weight of being an only child had never felt heavier. Mom had been my anchor, my only family after Dad died when I was 7. A car crash, she'd told me. A heroic one if such a thing existed. He'd swerved to avoid a deer, lost control, and wrapped his truck around a tree. That's what she said anyway, her voice steady but her eyes always distant when she spoke of him. I'd built my image of him from her stories. James Harper, the brave, selfless man who loved us fiercely until fate took him away. Now, standing in the attic, I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Closure, maybe. Or just a way to say goodbye to the house that held every memory of my childhood. I started with a box labeled Photos, pulling out faded Polaroids of Mom and me at the county fair, my gap-toothed grin beaming under a too-big cowboy hat. There were none of Dad. I'd always thought that was strange, but Mom said he hated cameras. He lived in the moment, she'd say, and I'd nod, imagining a larger-than-life hero who didn't need photos to be remembered. The next box was heavier, stuffed with papers and old bills. I was about to shove it aside when I saw it. A small, yellowed envelope tucked between a stack of utility statements. My name was written on it in Mom's careful cursive, Evelyn Harper. No address, no stamp. Just my name, sealed shut with wax that had cracked but held firm. My heart gave a strange lurch, like it knew something I didn't. I sat cross-legged on the dusty floor, the envelope in my hands. The attic seemed to hold its breath. I broke the seal, careful not to tear the fragile paper, and pulled out a single sheet. Mom's handwriting filled the page, tight and precise, but the words trembled, as if she'd written them in a hurry or a panic. Evelyn, my darling, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you found this letter sooner than I hoped. I've carried this secret for so long it feels like part of me, but you deserve the truth. Your father didn't die in a car crash. He's alive. He left us, faked his death, and started over somewhere else. I don't know where he is now, but I know he walked away from us without looking back. I lied to protect you, to give you a father you could be proud of. I'm sorry. I hope you can forgive me. Love, Mom. The words blurred as my eyes stung. I read it again, then a third time, each pass carving a deeper wound. My father, alive. The man I'd mourned for nearly 3 decades, the hero of my childhood, had walked out on us. The attic spun, the air too thick to breathe. I clutched the letter, my knuckles white, and felt something else inside the envelope. A small key, tarnished and heavy, with no label or explanation. I sat there for what felt like hours, the letter in one hand, the key in the other. My father was alive. The story I'd built my life around was a lie. And Mom, who'd raised me alone, who'd worked double shifts at the diner to keep us afloat, had carried this secret until her last breath. Why hadn't she told me? Why had she let me believe a fairy tale? The attic was too small, too suffocating. I stumbled downstairs, the letter crumpled in my fist and collapsed onto the couch. The house was silent, but my mind screamed with questions. Where was he? Why had he left? And what the hell was I supposed to do now? The search begins. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay on my old twin bed in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, the letter on the nightstand like a ticking bomb. By morning, I'd made a decision. I had to find him. Not because I wanted a tearful reunion or some hallmark moment, but because I needed answers. I needed to look him in the eye and ask why he'd abandoned us. I started with what I knew, which wasn't much. James Harper, born in 1960, truck driver, loved classic rock and black coffee. That was the sum of my father, or at least the version Mom had given me. I dug through the attic again, hoping for clues, but found nothing. No photos, no letters, no trace of him beyond a few old flannel shirts Mom had kept in a cedar chest. The key from the envelope didn't fit any lock I could find in the house, which only deepened the mystery. My next step was the internet. I sat at Mom's ancient desktop, the dial-up connection wheezing to life, and typed James Harper into Google. The results were useless. Too many James Harpers, none of them mine. I tried variations, Jim Harper, J. Harper, even wild guesses like James Harper faked death. Nothing. The key sat on the desk, mocking me. It looked like it belonged to a safe deposit box, but Mom had never mentioned one. I turned to public records. The local library had access to databases, so I spent the next day hunched over a microfiche reader, scrolling through old newspapers. The crash that supposedly killed Dad was reported in the Cedarville Gazette on June 12, 1998. A single paragraph: local man James Harper, 38, died in a single-vehicle accident on Route 17. Authorities say he lost control avoiding an animal. He leaves behind a wife, Margaret, and daughter, Evelyn. No mention of a body, no obituary. Just a stark clinical note that now felt like a lie. The librarian, a kind woman named Mrs. Callahan who'd known Mom, saw my frustration. "You're looking for something specific, aren't you, Evie?" she asked, pushing her glasses up her nose. I hesitated, then showed her the article. "This is about my dad, but I don't think it's true." Her eyes widened, but she didn't press. Instead, she helped me search deeper. DMV records, marriage licenses, anything that might trace James Harper after 1998. We found nothing. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air. That night, I posted on a genealogy forum, a long shot, looking for information on James Harper, born 1960, last seen in Cedarville, Ohio, 1998. May have relocated under a new name. Any tips on tracing someone who disappeared? I included a vague description: tall, brown hair, blue eyes, scar on his left forearm from a childhood accident. I didn't expect much, but within hours, a user named TraceMaster88 replied. "Sounds like a skip. People who fake their deaths often use new identities. Check court records for name changes or try a pie. Good luck. A private investigator." The idea hadn't occurred to me, but it made sense. I found one in Columbus, a gruff man named Ray Delgado who specialized in missing persons. His office smelled like stale coffee and cigarettes, and he didn't sugarcoat things. "People don't disappear without a reason," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Debt, affairs, trouble with the law, you sure you want to know?" I nodded, handing him the letter and the key. "I need to know." Ray took the case for a retainer I could barely afford. He started with the key, confirming it was for a safe deposit box, likely at a bank in Ohio. He also ran James Harper's name through every database he had access to: Social Security, criminal records, even aliases. 2 weeks later, he called me to his office. "I've got something," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. Inside was a single sheet, a marriage license from 2001, issued in Boise, Idaho, for a James Carter and a woman named Laura Bennett. The birth date matched Dad's. So did the description Ray had pieced together from DMV records: a tall man with blue eyes and a scar on his left forearm. "He's in Boise," Ray said. "Living as James Carter, married, 2 kids, owns a hardware store." "You want me to keep digging?" My stomach churned. A new family, a new life. "No," I said. "I'll take it from here." The road to Boise, the drive from Ohio to Idaho, took 2 days. I could have flown, but I needed the time to think, to prepare for whatever I'd find. The key was in my pocket, the letter in my bag. I'd found the bank it belonged to, a small branch in Cedarville that Mom had used. The safe deposit box held a single item, a photo of Dad, Mom, and me taken when I was 5. We were at a park laughing, Dad's arm around Mom's waist. On the back, in Mom's handwriting, "For when you're ready to know." It broke my heart all over again. Boise was greener than I'd expected, a city nestled against the foothills with a small-town feel. I checked into a motel and spent the first day staking out Carter's Hardware, the store Ray had mentioned. It was a squat brick building with a cheerful sign and a steady stream of customers. I saw him on the second day, Dad, or the man who used to be Dad. He was heavier now, his hair graying, but the way he moved, the tilt of his head, was unmistakable. He was helping a customer load lumber into a truck, laughing like he didn't have a care in the world. I followed him home that evening, keeping my distance. His house was a 2-story colonial in a quiet suburb, with a tricycle in the driveway and a basketball hoop over the garage. A woman, Laura, I assumed, greeted him at the door with a kiss. 2 kids, a boy and a girl, maybe 10 and 12, ran out to hug him. My chest tightened. This was his life now, a wife who wasn't Mom, kids who weren't me. I spent a week watching, learning his routine. He opened the store at 8, closed at 6, ate dinner with his family every night. On Sunday, they went to church. It was so normal, so perfect, it made me sick. How could he build this life after leaving us? Did he ever think of me? Of Mom working herself to death to raise me alone? I knew I had to confront him. I couldn't keep lurking like some ghost from his past. But I wasn't ready, not yet. I needed to understand who he was now, what kind of man could do this. I started small, visiting the hardware store as a customer. He was behind the counter, ringing up a sale, and when he looked up and saw me, his smile faltered. Just for a second, but I saw it. Did he recognize me? Or was it just my imagination? Need help finding anything? He asked, his voice deeper than I remembered, but still familiar. Just browsing, I mumbled, grabbing a random pack of screws and retreating to the back of the store. My heart was pounding. I wasn't ready to face him, not like this. That night, I sat in my motel room and wrote out what I wanted to say. Why did you leave? How could you start over like we didn't exist? Did you ever love us? The words felt inadequate, but they were all I had. I decided to go to his house the next evening when I knew he'd be home. I'd knock on the door, show him the letter, and demand answers. What happened after that, I didn't know. The confrontation, the sun was setting when I pulled up to his house, the sky streaked with pink and gold. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel, the letter and photo in my pocket like a talisman. The neighborhood was quiet, kids' laughter echoing from a nearby yard. I walked up the driveway, my legs heavy, and rang the bell. Laura answered, a woman in her late 40s with kind eyes and flour on her apron. "Can I help you?" she asked, smiling. "Is James home?" I said, my voice steadier than I felt. She nodded, calling over her shoulder, "Jim, someone's here for you." He appeared in the doorway, wiping his hands on a dish towel. His eyes met mine, and this time there was no mistaking it. He knew. His face went pale, the towel slipping from his hands. "Evelyn," he whispered. Laura frowned, looking between us. "You know her?" I didn't give him a chance to answer. I pulled out the letter and held it up. "I found this from Mom. She told me everything. You didn't die, you left us." His mouth opened, but no words came out. Laura's smile vanished. "Jim, what's she talking about?" The kids appeared behind her, the boy holding a soccer ball, the girl clutching a book. "Dad," the girl said, her voice small. "Who's this?" I felt the ground shift beneath me. This was spiraling out of control, but I couldn't stop. "I'm his daughter," I said, my voice breaking. "From his first family, the one he abandoned." The silence was deafening. Laura's hand flew to her mouth. The kids stared wide-eyed. Dad James took a step back, his face a mask of panic. "Evelyn, please," he said. "Let's talk outside." "No," I snapped. "You don't get to control this. You left us. You faked your death. Mom worked herself to death raising me alone, and you were here playing house with them." Laura's voice was sharp now. "Jim, is this true?" He looked at her, then at the kids, and I saw the moment he broke. His shoulders slumped and he nodded. "It's true," he said, barely audible. I left." The girls started crying. The boy dropped his soccer ball, his face crumpling. Laura's eyes filled with tears, but her voice was steady. "Get out," she said to him. "Now." "Laura, please," he started, but she cut him off. "Get out." He grabbed his keys and stumbled out the door, brushing past me without a word. I stood there, frozen, as Laura turned to me. "You need to leave too," she said, her voice shaking. "You've done enough." I wanted to argue, to explain, but the look in her eyes stopped me. I walked back to my car, my chest tight with guilt and anger and something I couldn't name. I'd come for answers, but all I'd done was destroy another family. The aftermath, I drove aimlessly for hours, ending up at a diner on the edge of town. The letter and photo were on the table in front of me, next to a cold cup of coffee. I didn't know what I'd expected, closure maybe, or some grand confrontation where I'd walk away feeling whole. Instead, I felt emptier than ever. I opened my phone and started typing, the words spilling out before I could stop them. I found a subreddit, Am I the Asshole, and posted, AITA for exposing my father's secret life. I found out he faked his death and left my mom and me when I was a kid. I tracked him down and confronted him in front of his new family. Now they're falling apart, and I feel like I ruined their lives. Would I be the asshole for telling the truth? I hit post and waited, staring at the screen as the first comments rolled in. Some called me the hero, others the villain. "NTA, he deserved it," one user wrote. "YTA, you should have handled it privately," said another. I didn't know what I wanted them to say. I didn't even know what I believed anymore. So that is for today's story. Like, share it with others, and follow for more real-life stories and heartfelt experiences. Your support means everything, and it helps us share more stories like this. Thank you for reading, and I'll see you in the next one.